I'm Matt Braunger. This might help.
I am not a doctor.
This might help.
I'm not a professional.
Let's have fun. This honestly is a good time.
Honestly, I got no idea what I'm doing. What's going on? Who are you?
I'm Matt Braunger. This might help. The podcast. Hey, welcome to another episode of This Might Help with Matt Braunger, the non-clinical advice podcast that's mostly just fun and for comedy. If you need professional help, which most of us do, I go to a therapist, reach out to someone who is professional. My guests and I are not clinicians. I will probably never have a therapist on here. I might, but I don't know. Might upset the careful balance I have of fun-loving bullshit. But thanks so much for calling in. Please continue to call in. We're trying to bank more calls, and thanks for those of you who call in specifically for a guest. I have a friend with me, a fellow party dad, a fellow Chicagoan. Will Miles is here. Will, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you? Thanks for having me. Hell yeah.
I'm good, dude. We just hung out a couple weeks ago in the desert together.
Yeah.
Yeah, with our family, not just me and you. Sit on a rock.
We went to the desert to find ourselves. No,
yeah, took a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, we've been posting about you coming on the show and like how we're both basically party dads. We both have daughters like literally the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we still like a good time, as do our wives. But yeah, we went out to the desert with it was me and Kara, you and your wife Giulia, and Chris Garcia and his wife Valerie, and we all brought our daughters out. So it was like it was daughter desert weekend.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was one of our we don't do a lot of other kid hangs too much.
Mm-hmm.
But it proved that it's very necessary. It's so much fun.
It really is. I feel like I so far have kind of dodged it. We'll get into it more, I'm sure, you and I, when our kids start like school.
Yeah,
but
I know. Yeah.
The thing I always hear is like, oh, my kid's friends with this kid, but I can't stand their parents.
Yeah, right.
I haven't had any of that.
Me either. I love every one of her friends. Their parents are great. So
yeah, I haven't even met people on a playground that I'm like, oh, this guy sucks. Everyone's just, I don't know if COVID just mellowed everybody out or what, but like I'm dodging bullets. And I'm not picky. I'm not like a judgy guy. If someone's not, that is not to say if like just calling us party dads. It's not like I'm out on the playground with a fifth or something and just be like, oh, you don't want any? Are you a man? Like I'm not.
Are you not cool, bro? What the fuck?
Bro, this guy's not cool. I don't know, man. Yeah.
I see that it says no drinking at the playground, but that's not for me. It's for the kid.
I'm a rebel, dude.
Right.
How long have you lived in LA?
This has been since 2018 now, and it feels weird because we moved here in 2018. I was working, that's why I moved. So I was pretty much working the whole time, and then 2019 as well. And then I was like, okay, we're pregnant now. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah. And then the pandemic started, and then I stopped like working all the time. I'm like, so I'm not really getting LA, I was like, yeah, I missed it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think LA is kind of just always there. It's kind of not that thing like New York where you step out the door and it's New York. Like
right.
New York is nonstop, always in your face. LA is just so spread out, and you ask 5 different people, you're gonna get 5 different takes.
Yeah,
of what LA really is.
And it's like people who my buddy was just here, my buddy Steve, and he was like, "Oh, Will doesn't really leave his pocket of LA." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, when you live here, you don't leave your pocket." So then it's like somebody lives in, Santa Monica. It's like, yeah, I don't see them too much. I don't go to Santa Monica.
Yeah, well, no, I neither do I. You're further east than I am.
Yeah.
I don't know why I would. Anytime I've had, not that auditions even exist anymore. They're all online. They're all tape.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. It's probably better for them than it is for us.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Have you had? Do you audition?
Yeah, I've been mostly doing commercials because that's always been my jam. And but it is weird because we'll do one that's a callback. Humble brag, I got a callback.
Sure. Oh, I got 2 last week, bro.
Nice.
Didn't get either of them.
I haven't gotten one thing yet.
Humble non-brag.
But they do the thing where you're in like the waiting room and then you're in the so I'm in the waiting room with other people. Like I saw other buddies in there and I'm like, oh, what's up, man? And it's like,
Yeah.
how have you been? I mean, yeah, we're both at home now, but we're both talking. We would never Zoom each other.
Totally.
But it's fun to Zoom now. It's like people I knew in New York. And then, so then it's like, all right, that's fun. And then we audition, but it's like on camera, on Zoom. I'm like, if I was in the room, I'd probably do better because I'm a stand-up comedian. But I'm like on Zoom, I'm like, I don't know if this is good at all. Like, probably not actually.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about this a lot, but I had a thing during the pandemic that they had me come in like 3 times and audition with improv with a bunch of people and just, basically write for them, them right there. And then they gave it to someone else, and then they came back and they're like, oh, that fell through. And then Matt's it. Would he just play with some more people, just see who would fit with him? Great, they did, and it still went away. And so they basically they gave me their word and everything. It was like I'd been dancing for all these faceless people, but because I had Rose and I had Kara, I was like, I got to the bottom of it. I found out what happened, but it's one of those things. It was like, dude, if I was like that guy still in his apartment by himself without a family, I would have. It's like that thing where like, how soon can you get a gun?
Yeah.
I'm not a violent person, but I had one recently that it was like, I told Kara and she's like, oh, B, I'm so sorry. And it was like, honestly, I just laughed because it was I got this call back for, it's going to be like this big holiday campaign. And you basically got it like, at one point you're like dancing to holiday music. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to have you do the sides and then okay, we're going to play some music and you just dance. And I can't see these people.
Right, yeah.
And I felt like a stripper. And so I'm like doing a little dance. And they're like, okay, great, Matt, thanks. That was great. We're going to keep you in the waiting room. We're going to talk and we're going to bring you in. We might bring you again. And okay, cool. So they stop. 3 seconds pass. They hang up on me. Just hang up. No goodbye, nothing. And I reach out to it's like they made me dance and then hung up on me. And I reached out to I shot a thing to my agent. I was like, can you find out if they fucked up or what? And then I logged back in and then they were like talking to, Lloyd, we're almost ready for blah, blah, blah. Matt, you're good to go. It's like one of those things like never said, hey, listen, sorry for dropping the call, nothing. And I was just like, the thing was like, man, but it was like, it was so fucked up. And of course they didn't even think about it. Then I just laughed. I was like laughing all day long. I was like, pieces of shit. You made me dance.
I mean, you can cut this part, but is it the one where you were also shirtless?
No.
Okay, no. I heard about that audition.
No, I haven't done a shirtless one.
Okay, yeah.
Oh man, yeah. If I had to show skin too,
there was one.
We're not cutting that. I don't give a fuck who that
Leave
was.
that in. There was one where I had when you're going out for roles that you're like, I'm not getting this. Like you'll see that
all the time.
It says like fit. It's like looking for a fit person. I'm like, guys, let's not. Who are we kidding ourselves for? And there was one that was like this commercial where we had to all be in a pool. Like it wasn't an actual pool, but they were like, let's see what it's like when you're in a pool, which means shirtless.
Oh,
no, sure. Can I wear a basketball jersey? And they were like, no. And so like we're all in audition and we're all shirtless. And I'm like, guys, this is like comical, my body next to these guys. Like I don't know. I remember that Will Ferrell was like, I've got a perfect comedy body, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm there. Let me just stick with that. Like, when you take off your shirt, people will probably laugh, that kind of thing. I'm like, great, that's what I want. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, no, I hate those auditions. You're there and you're like, what am I even doing? There's no chance I'm getting this. I'm not what you want.
Right.
For some reason, my agent pushed me through into this, or you're thinking about going a different direction, but you haven't said it out loud yet. So you brought me like, it's, the fuck is this? I do love finding out little inside baseball though, when like, like when you're like, oh, you can cut this. It's like, I'm not going to cut that. Like, I feel like those people put it out in the world by doing that shit. I remember when I first started going in for commercials, there was like, there was this thing where you're like an obnoxious guy at the gym. And so I was doing like leg stretches where this person's sitting in a chair and I was putting like my crotch right next to their face. And I got a call back and they gave the note to have everyone do that.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, so that was remember I made that up?
Yep.
And like the producer's face is just darkened. And I was like, I don't give a fuck if I don't get this job. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
You're not creating. I'm creating.
Yep.
And I mean, I will, I'm not difficult, but if they're using my shit, it's like, so do I get a writer's credit?
Exactly.
And they like laugh nervously, but it's like, but
they're like,
real.
no, the commercial is the writer's credit because you get all like the first big commercial I did. I remember we went with What They Did, which was like, okay at best.
Yeah.
And then it was like 3 of us who were all in improv and comedy.
Yeah.
And we just like improvised a few scenes, and those ended up being the like 3 national commercials were just the ones that we made up. And I was like, because people were like watching, like, wow, you guys did that commercial. That's great. They wrote some really funny stuff for you. And I remember being like with my friends and being like, actually, that's that punchline at the end that I say, I made that up. I was like, and they were like, oh wow, so you get writer credit? I was like, wait, no,
I know. And you have to have that moment where you're like, is this where I Jackie Robinson this? To use a ridiculous metaphor. Where like you have to go to the wall, you have to take the bullets, from all this, so other people that's built in.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, it kind of is like, you guys, I wrote your commercial. At least bring me up when you're like looking for a writer for your advertising company. Right. Like, obviously I wrote 3 commercials for you. National. Yeah.
No, I mean, they just, let's try one just improvisational. It's like, if we lived in a world where we all could be, cut in. And I do think once you get into the union and stuff like that, it gets much more fair than most jobs.
Oh, absolutely.
Without a doubt, in terms of how it's carved up. Because people went again and again and again to the wall for all of us. But it's like that thing where you should stop and go, okay, so anything I say, I want the WGA to represent me on this, and I want these. If you use it, that's documented. You have this on camera,
Yep.
And it'd be like, all right, let's not improvisation, and then also let's never bring this dude back again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you got to be the biggest guy out or something. But even the biggest commercial actor is like, not a name usually.
No, not a name. They're trying to break to the next level typically. Except for like Flo or something.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't care. But yeah, it's funny. It's like when you look at how, and I've talked about this before, the way the way stuff's portrayed. Every time an athlete or a star gets a major paycheck, it's front page, and everyone's like, "Oh, how did they deserve it?" And it's like, I'm always like, who should get that money though?
Right, exactly.
The person that owns the fucking team that does nothing because he inherited oil fields. Like we don't know how much. They're making 20 times that, right? You guys recognize that? That never. If we like, it's like our system would just be over scrutinized against the wills of people who run it. If it was just if we all had those salaries constantly. So like when someone gets a big paycheck, I'm like, good. Awesome. I know. Me too. Take that money.
and I'm always thinking like, I always do think of like what the bigger person is making. Cause like even the first, that national commercial I was talking about, that was my first one. And I was like, I was broke. So I was elated when I started getting those, checks in. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is how much you make. And then I just remember being like, wait, this is how much I make. I'm like just a pawn in this game. Like what's the bigger person make? Like the person who made the commercial must make more. And then the company that hired that person must make a shitload for them to be able to pay me this and not even think
absolutely.
Like,
yeah. I mean, I did a Super Bowl ad with like actual famous people, and I was just like, I'm not even gonna think about, and there were a couple people that knew they were just talking about people, and I'm like, I don't even want to hear it. That doesn't probably care, but I'm just like, good Lord,
so much money.
Yeah, and I made enough to cover my year.
Right, exactly.
That I would have possibly made on the road.
Right.
Which, in like a week.
Right, I know. That's what I love. That's why I'm always going out for commercials still. I'm like, I'll do that. The money.
Oh yeah, totally.
Amazing, yeah.
And I'm just like you. I'm just like me. I'm sure we both only go out for stuff that's like, okay, this is definitely going to pay really well.
Yeah.
And it's not for like Winston cigarettes.
Right.
Or, like something insane.
I'm not compromising who I am. Yeah, it's like
right. And thankfully we're and we're comedians. Right. We're not going to be like Excedrin. It works. Like I remember there's that woman who was on Mad Men, and during Mad Men her Excedrin ad ran, and I was like, that's kind of look. Hey, it still worked. Screw it. I'm not judging, but like it's weird. It kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
If Flo was on You're the Worst, I rewatched it, but I remember when You're the Worst came out and Flo was in the first episode, and I was like, that's Flo. Like,
Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Okay. So like you were just in Chicago though for how long?
I was in Chicago for, I mean, my whole life, but 6 years
Right.
doing comedy. I moved back after college. I went to Atlanta, I went to Morehouse, and then I moved back to Chicago because I saw like Chris Farley Eat Your Hollywood Story that talked about going to Improv Olympic. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go there. Yeah, that's,
Whoa,
I was
that's
like,
where I started.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because
you were the Mad TV guys. They were all like, well, like,
oh no, this is before. By the time I got mad, I was long since not an improv person.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I stuff at UCB, but like I did improv in Chicago for like 2 years and then started doing stand up and stopped. And then once I got to LA, just kind of out of boredom, when UCB came, I started taking some classes there. But it was just like I already had all that skill set, and so it was like I never actually got on a team. But even when I auditioned for teams, I was like in my head, I'm like, this feels like a step backward. When I didn't get in, I was like, good.
Me too. Honestly.
Years later, I went auditioned for Mad, and I was like the person that the people in the waiting room were like, what are you doing here? You're not, I don't know you, man. You're not from Groundlings. You're not from City. You know, like this is not the talent pool kind of thing. And ironically, I got one of the 3 spots that they brought in, like hundreds of us to go in for. I didn't know, shit from shit. But yeah, it was just kind of like a cool, weird little sojourn into that world. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's but like I remember when Mad TV came out, everybody in Chicago knew you, and so we were like excited for that. But then I was like, some of my IO teachers were like, that were on it, I think, or like some of my, like the people who came back and performed. I remember, like, for some reason I remember Jordan being there.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
At IO, and I was like, oh, this guy is like always stoned, but I was like, this guy, I like it. Yeah. I was like, this makes sense. Like, I can be this guy. But then, him and like Keegan, I remember, or something, like at one point were there, but and then like some other people. So I was like, Mad TV was great, but I was there for like 2 years, and then it's interesting because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just saw that Farley doc, and I was like, I wanted to be, 2000, I was like, a Chappelle thing came out. I was like, that I relate to, because he was like this nerdy guy, nerdy black dude who had a white friend. And I was like, I'm a nerdy black dude who has a white friend. He's saying the same thing. He was on Def Comedy Jam before this. I'm like, I could be on Def Comedy Jam. I knew it. And then, so I wanted to do that, but I was like, I love Chris Farley. So I'm like, how do I do that? I must go through this Chris Farley route, I guess, to do that. And then my teacher there, this guy, Joe Bill, was like, so you want to do stand-up, right? I could tell, because you do like the Armandos really well, and you seem to focus on that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to do the stand-up thing. And he was like, this is not stand-up. You have to just start doing open mics. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So
right.
So I started doing that, and like me and Danny Callis would roll around, and then me and Drew Freeze would roll around, and then Clark started a little bit after me. Clark Jones. So when Clark started, that's when it really started kicking off, where we would like go around doing comedy a bunch. And then but before that, I was just like doing it randomly. And then I remember at one point Danny Callis was like, hey, if you do these jokes more than once and go up, at least twice a week, you'll probably get better. And I was like, oh really? Okay. The beginning was a lot of like very passive movement in comedy, where people would be like, just do this. And I'm like, oh, I just didn't know that. All right. I didn't. That's great. I'll go up every day if I have to. And then I did.
I'm so glad you told your story, though, because it is just the journey of a pinball. It always is. It always is. People are like, well, what should I do? It's like, there's no, the wrong route is to not apply yourself at all.
Exactly.
Other than that, there's no thing you should or shouldn't be doing.
No. None of it makes any sense. It's pure crapshoot. Like,
yep.
And then it happened that like a friend from high school was like, hey, so Hannibal's doing comedy. You guys remember Hannibal? And I was like, no, because I wasn't there when he was there. Yeah. And he left after his either 8th grade or freshman year from our high school had 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
And, but he left to go to a different school, so I didn't really know him that well. But our friend like set up the show where it was going to be me and Hannibal. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, cool. That guy seems, I remember him a little bit. He seems cool, like from
Mhm.
the general circle of Chicago black high school kids, which is very
Yeah.
small, ironically. Uh, and then so I like met him and then, or like hung out with him again. And then we all started rolling around. And then he got really famous and was able to have me open for him. And that, like, that's just how comedy goes. It's like, oh, that's a random, weird way
Yep.
to be like, oh, he saw me go up a few times and I crushed every time. But after I had been working for like 4 or 5 years really hard, going up every night. And then he was
Yeah.
want to open for me. And then that opened these other doors. And then I opened, other doors, and then led eventually to New York, and then hosting Knitting Factory with Clark and Kenny. And
Yeah.
eventually led to writing, which was, my wife and our buddy Kevin Barnett. That kind of led to the writing career. And then,
Yeah.
and that led to LA in 2018. So
Hmm.
after starting in like 05 at Improv Olympic, 07 doing stand up,
Yeah.
2011 opening for Hannibal, 2013 moving to New York, 2014 taking over Knitting Factory, 2018 moving to LA.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a journey, and that's not a bad life either.
Right. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. But I was broke until 2018. So, I mean,
right. Well, yeah, as long as you're taking care of yourself and
yeah, exactly.
everything.
Oh, I wasn't. No, I was not taking care of myself at all.
No. Okay, well, let's take that out there. Your family, at least, your wife. It is. I mean, it's like that coming from Chicago. It is a very fun but pretty unhealthy lifestyle. It's pretty crazy. I mean, I remember feeling like, okay, not consciously like, oh, LA will make me healthier, but it did.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
I mean, and my last year in Chicago, I rode a bike everywhere.
Me too.
That really helped for sure with the amount of booze I was drinking and crappy food I was eating and stuff. But I think the LA kind of lifestyle definitely slowed me down. But I will say a day job made me unhealthy too.
Me too.
Not the same degree as Chicago, but it's so sedentary and you're just snacking.
Yeah, I know.
Eat whatever you want for lunch and stuff because you got to money, and it's like, oh no, what is it?
This is not good. Yeah,
not good. Yeah. It's funny. We get so many people calling in who are always like, well, how do I, get into comedy? And it's like, I don't know. I don't think anybody.
No.
It's the fact that you just saw the Hollywood story of Chris Farley and your takeaway was like, oh, where'd he start?
Yep.
Much more than what a horrible way to go.
I remember when he died too, because I think that's why I was watching, because I was like, oh, I remember that, because this girl in my class lived in the Hancock building.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I remember she came to school that day and was like, yo, there are a bunch of like ambulances and cops and like people taking photos outside of my apartment today. And I was like, what? And then we learned Chris Farley died. I was like, wow, you live where Chris Farley died?
Yeah, in the water tower, right?
It was like in the Hancock. I think they lived in the Hancock.
Oh, it was in the Hancock. It was in the Hancock? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Oprah lived in the water tower or something like that.
Yes.
Oprah was at the top of the water tower.
I guess I'm just probably like pushing all the stuff together.
I mean, they're directly across the street.
There's a famous, totally. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's across the street. But yeah, it's like this is where famous people in Chicago live. Here they are.
Yep.
All of them are. Jordan's in there.
Yeah. I remember passing by Jordan's place, being like, "Oh man, I want to go in. Like, can you ring the doorbell?"
Sure, I'm sure he's cool with it. He's having a drink. You can join him.
Exactly. He's got his tequila or whatever. Yeah.
Oh my God, that guy in the Last Dance with his bottle. I mean, I was just like, I admire the confidence. I do. The fact that you see that guy in press pictures walking to the next thing, just holding whatever his label, his brand is. Like, good Lord, Michael.
It must have been. I mean, I think he was just like, oh shit, I'm about to tell them how much of an asshole I am. Like, I can't. Sure. I got to get drunk for this.
Yeah. The meticulous ways I would find to dominate other people without regard for anyone's life. Yeah.
Just complete dickhead. It's like, wow, I can't believe that worked though. Like when it works, you're like, I don't know. It works.
Yeah, but I think you kind of have to make that decision, not to be like turn to the dark side or anything, but it's kind of like I always think of that Patrice O'Neal bit about like I don't know if I can really have money because you got to kill people. You have to have no regards. It's like my family, fuck your family. I need money. That whole bit he does where it's like, yeah, if you operate on that, and I'm not even saying Michael Jordan is even near that level, but
I know, right? Well, he might be now. I mean, he's
Oh yeah, no,
the Jordan brand, but yeah.
For sure. But it's. I mean, I'm sure if we walked into the factory where they make those shoes, we'd be like, ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the suffering. Here's where.
yeah. Somebody has to suffer here.
Somebody has. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's why I like LeBron because he's I don't know. He's just a good example of like he's not quite an asshole. Like I'm sure he's hilarious.
Sure.
Person, and I'm sure he's like, got his ways, but. Public image is not an asshole at all. It's very like
no, and I also think Michael Jordan kind of just didn't care. Like
that's true.
Money. I mean, within reason.
Yeah,
a monster. But I think LeBron was like one of the first. We now have this new generations of professional athletes that are asking questions, which used to never happen. Anytime it happened, like Billie Jean King or something, it'd be like front page news. Now it's kind of like LeBron's like, well, why? What is the problem with our educational system? Why is the tax money being diverted to rich schools? Why is this? And he's like, I'm just gonna build my own school, and everybody's like, what? Why would you? Kind of like, oh, you
play basketball.
Who do you think you are? It's like I'm not defined by you, because,
right?
Like what Laura, what's her fuck would like, shut up and dribble. Like, okay, thanks, white lady. Thanks for weighing in. Like, listen, no one's saying shut up and shop at Holly Hobby and get off.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
No one's saying that to you. So
shut up and do whatever you do. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like if you call this news,
shut up and shop for window treatments.
Right.
Laura, please. Yeah. Whatever the stereotype would be, for a
go
white
to
woman.
the basement of IKEA and ask for everything from the top shelf.
Not that chair. That chair
up there. Yeah. Oh,
that one up
this
there.
lady again.
Yeah. You can have someone young scurry up a ladder and possibly hurt themselves getting to that chair. That would be very, very helpful. Oh, but you went back to Chicago too. You're on Southside. You're a writer on Southside and a character on Southside, which is now on HBO Max.
Yes.
Originally was on Comedy Central.
And then the HBO Max bump is insane. Like when people could watch at any moment, it's like, oh wow, people are actually watching it. This is crazy. Not to say they didn't watch it before, but more are watching.
They didn't.
It now.
Not as much.
They
did, but it's like they did, but it's like in terms of it, as I put it, like moving the needle.
Yeah.
Until it went to HBO Max, that's when it's all about accessibility.
Yep.
And getting it in front of you, kind of thing. And so like my wife and I during pandemic, we binged all of it.
Love it. Yeah, that's great.
It was one of those things where it was just like, oh, I didn't realize. I knew this would be funny, but like taking a chance on a show is always like, oh,
yeah, absolutely.
And it paid off so much because it's just mile a minute, and the jokes are so fast, and it's also like, it kind of gave me like a nostalgia for Chicago and kind of like and the lifestyle and stuff, and also. It's extremely real about the difference between the South and the North.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember a black friend of mine who I used to wait tables with came to work and was just laughing and laughing and laughing. He lived on the North Side, and he grew up in Wisconsin.
Oh wow!
And so he's one of those people who would like make fun of himself and be like, oh, I'm whiter than that kind of thing or whatever. Like had a real good sense of humor about that sort of thing. But he was driving to work listening to like a hip hop station, and they were doing like people were calling in, and it was all black people on the station, and a black dude called in and he was like, hey, can you play so and so? And he's like, all right, man, like where you calling from? And the guy's like, he's like said someplace. He's like, where's that? And he's like, North Side. And the DJ hung up on him like for a laugh, and Tony, being a North Sider, was just laughing like, oh, that was great.
Hysterical.
Just like so cold. But it is, fucking daily. It was the wall that MLK hit. Like he couldn't desegregate that city. There was too much money, and the grip of Catholicism was too strong, and it was just not this kind of like, the line is here.
It was designed too perfectly to be segregated with the I-90/94 is
Right.
like, and the and you know all every road there is designed to segregate the city, and every train route. So it is like, it's one of those where it's like Uber may have opened it up a little bit, but it's certainly one of those locked in racism things where it's yeah, you'll never get over there. You'll never get over there.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And they're like North Side, there were pockets. Like it's now gentrified, but Uptown used to be very black.
Yeah.
But that's
and
kind of
Old
it.
Town weirdly too. Old Town, right in that pocket where Zany's is, it's like,
oh God, it was a line between there and Cabrini Green.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the white money was just like crush. You could like see it move. Like a
just
almost
like
yearly tide.
Tearing down projects and stuff. I remember when like Cabrini got torn down, I was like, wow, that's wild. I didn't think that could get torn down.
And it was kind of like this, not to hypothesize, but I mean, after all the violence jumped off throughout the city, I was just like, yeah, it's displacement.
I know. Yeah, it is. They moved people to Aurora and shit.
Mm-hmm. And
it's like, let's take them back. Let's move, these kids to the suburbs and bring in more Lincoln Park kids. Like, wait, what?
Kids that are sworn into this gang, and kind of, it's just like, let's not treat it. Let's not deal with it. Let's just move it. Oh wait, like we've made it worse. We've spread it out.
Did that cause problems? There's death rates up. Okay, wow. Maybe we made a mistake.
Failed experiment. For these. Yeah, I when I was waiting tables, I went over to someone had a friend who was having a party, like a housewarming party for some giant condo they just bought that was like, you could pretty much see Cabrini Green out the window. And it was just like kind of gross opulence, this person.
Yeah.
I don't know who they were, but it was just like, this kind of baller apartment. And like, I went in the bathroom and like 4 shower heads, like just I mean, right within view of abject poverty. It's like
how does that make you feel? Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's a strange city.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is one of those cities where, because I grew up on most of the north side, so I saw it too, where I would be, songs would be like, "Where the South Side, where the West Side," and they never bring up the North Side. I'm like, we don't exist, and I'm fine with that. It would make sense. We don't exist in these songs. I can tell you, I live down the street from R. Kelly. Now this means nothing, but I'm like, or at least one of his city house was like down the street from us.
Yeah, off of was that near Sedgwick?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was on. He lived on George, or maybe I'm not supposed to say that, but
well, I don't know if he's. I mean, he's going to jail for all days.
Yeah. And it was in the documentary. The place in the documentary is, I remember that place.
Yeah,
and being like, that's where R. Kelly lives, and like seeing him out with young girls. But at the time, I didn't think they were young. I thought, because I was 15, so I'm like, oh, they're my age.
Oh, that's
he's just out with girls, what I call girls.
Yeah. But I remember there used to be, like I worked at Rock Bottom downtown.
Oh yeah,
and then there was an empty parking lot, which is now a fucking skyscraper of condos. But it was a parking lot, and then the next block over was Rock and Roll McDonald's, which is now like upscale and fancied out, but back then it still had the shitty paintings of like
I love that Rock and Roll McDonald's
and stuff. And all the kids would go to Rock and Roll McDonald's for prom night, and every prom night R. Kelly's just there.
Yeah, I know.
Just having a burger and just like, oh, do people want to join him in his booth? Any of these ladies? It's like, these are high school girls.
Yeah.
So gross.
Crazy and gross. It is one of those weird things where you don't, like, when you're a kid, you don't really see it, because you're genuinely not concerned with it, because you're like, she's fine as shit. Like, this is what a grown woman looks like, because I'm her age and she looks a little bit older than me. It's like, no, this is a grown woman. But then when you become an adult and it just hits you when you see a 15-year-old and like you start thinking, you're like, wait a second, I never considered that's a tiny girl. Now that I'm an adult seeing this 15, that's a small girl that, wait a second, R. Kelly was dating small girls. It's hitting me this late, but I'm like, wow, that's not good.
And you think the best of things when you're young.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you have with your daughter, where like she just thinks she can just climb up something and not fall. It's that thing where it's like, it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
Like I think I would probably, had I been in Chicago around that time, living in your neighborhood, I would see it and be like, oh, I'd be like, oh, that's his niece, or it
Yeah.
wouldn't even.
Yep. Me too.
You just
Yeah.
don't fathom of that kind of evil. It
Yeah.
doesn't really cross your mind. Just
Yeah. And we heard the Aaliyah stuff, so it wasn't like, because I was just at one point checking to see if it was Aaliyah too, and I'm like, is that Aaliyah? She kind of looks like Aaliyah.
Yeah, wow.
That'd be cool if we saw Aaliyah around here, but
yeah,
even that, you're like, that shouldn't have been a normal thought.
No, totally.
She was 16. Yeah, like
yeah. But that's it. I mean, pop stars always got away with stuff that we were just like, oh, well, they're different. They're like aliens.
Right.
To them, it was. I just remembered my friend Henry told me this. Who, if anyone is in Chicago and is in Logan Square, go to the Double. That's his bar. It's a great spot.
Yeah.
But he worked in a movie theater on the Southside. I think it was Southside, and like, right around like, probably like Bump and Grind or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah.
They came, like him and his entourage came in like during a probably like a Saturday, like a normal day where like people are going to the movies, and they're like, hey man, R. Kelly wants to see this movie, so we got to clear out that theater, and we gotta. And Henry's like, no, I can't do that, man. And he's like, hey man, that's R. Kelly.
Yeah.
R. Kelly, man. He's like, okay, no, I recognize that. That's great, but no, I can't. And like the guy's talking to him. Henry's working like concessions,
right? Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's like, well, you think my name is Gary AMC? Like I can't clear out. It just was the audacity of R. Kelly's guy, of his guy, that was like, look, and I know that's a pop star. You need to get fired by kicking people out.
Make us happy. We don't care about your life.
There's a detachment from reality that they had for years. Where it's just R. Kelly probably told his friend to do that, and his friend tried, and it didn't work, and his friend probably like got ostracized for a week or something. Like he just didn't accept the normal rules of society on probably 1,000 levels.
Yeah. Clearly that's true now. Yeah. But it's not.
On that note, like what would be, how would you disregard the rules of society? Like you personally. What would be your
if I were like rich and famous?
No, that let's say you're rich and famous and you're just like, this is a thing that I should be able to get away with. So
I mean, like, yeah, that's a tough one. I guess smoking weed in public is always my thing, where even since I was in high school, I'm like, why is that bad? Like don't be an asshole and smoke like on a baby stroller, but I'm like
as long as there's no baby and you're standing in it, I think
yeah. Like cigarettes, when they said you could, because we grew up in a time where you could smoke cigarettes indoors.
Sure.
It's like, if you can just smoke cigarettes in the restaurant, why can't this person smoke weed outside? Like it shouldn't even be illegal. So that was always, the weed laws are always stuff I tried to buck. And in the last 10 years, it's always been a little bit better. But I remember being frightened so much throughout the end of high school and college, just so scared of everything, because you're always scared because weed is illegal and you'll go to jail.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, every day is frightening to me.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember it just being so like, why did I get high, man? Now I'm just paranoid that someone's going to know.
And then I'm going to go to jail. And if I have weed on me, I'm going to jail longer. And they're going to say I tried to sell it.
Yeah.
Like, no, God, this is such a scary thing. And I was arrested a bunch of times. But, and they wrongfully.
Sure.
Well, because I was the only person, in my group of friends from the North Side. So we'd always come to random places, especially when we turned 18.
Yeah.
Especially when we turned 21, but even more so when we turned 18, just to like hang out and shit. And so, it's like 6 black kids hanging out in Lincoln Park, Old Town. It's like, we're getting arrested sometimes. It's not cool, but that's just what happened.
Of course.
So it's like,
and that's the thing. It's like, I mean, recognizing privilege is not fucking virtue signaling on my part. It's just like, look, I know I've had these advantages my whole life. I smoke weed and kind of, people kind of either look the other way or like, I'm not perceived as a threat. I mean, you as a man and me as a man, that's the reason why we were allowed to get much more fucked up on alcohol.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because really what's going to happen to us? Nothing. No one's going to try to take advantage of us,
No.
Maybe a leather bar somewhere, but it probably even then they'll be nice.
Right.
Exactly. It's not we're not a target.
We can be like drop down, sleeping on the ground, drunk, and nothing will probably.
Totally. Yeah. Fine. Wake up there the next day. Probably won't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like someone just thinks you're homeless. Anyway.
Yeah.
So go on. Sorry.
Oh no. So that was just a weird part of life. Just that scene. But I think now the thing I like, what would I say is I really trust the laws. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I was just thinking off the top of my head, it would be kind of dope to just be like how like in the old timey like Godfather 2, where you just walk down the street and take an apple, and they're like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
just like something, nothing big, but just like to not have to wait in a line for a store or something, and be like, let me just get this banana.
I would like definitely. Part of why I do want to be rich is like there should be just grocery stores where everything's free. I think especially in like Inglewood or like these, not Inglewood anymore, but still somewhat Inglewood, but like different other communities where they don't have grocery stores, these food deserts. I'm like, what if I just, and people have enough money to do this now, but they don't, I guess. But it's like, what if I just open a grocery store where everything was free?
Yeah.
Eventually people wouldn't, there's this refrigerator in Brooklyn that does this.
Yeah.
And people don't abuse it. It's like when people understand what it's for and how it works, they're not going to abuse it. It might get fucked up for like 6 months, but then after that, people will understand the system and they won't abuse the system anymore.
Yes. And I would go one further. If we're talking like start one in Chicago, you hire the women who work at Wiener Circle. To regulate it. You know what I mean? For those who don't know, I think I've talked about this. It was a place in Chicago. It's a hot dog place where the women will rip you in half.
Yeah.
Talk about everything on you that's wrong. Your weight, your face, whatever. And while you try to get a hot dog or fries or whatever. So you have them, that everyone's being not, because they do play good cop, bad cop.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Where like the guy I mentioned before, Tony, we'd go in and he was very good looking and they'd be like sweating him and he'd be like ripping on them. And, girls like, I'm not even hitting on you. I'm getting married. And he goes, who the fuck would marry you? And she says, oh, fuck you, N-word.
Yeah.
And I'd say, hey, congratulations. And she's like, that's why you getting free fries. So
nice.
It's like, if you're nice,
yeah.
Like the thing is, if you're just if you go to the grocery store and you're like, all right, I have, like my parents operate a food pantry this way out of their church.
Oh, that's great.
It's cool, but it's very small. So
Yeah.
it's like you have to sign up and before COVID you could go, but now they either drop the food off or whatever. But it's like, I have 3 people if I was going, I'm a husband and wife and we have one small child, and they're like, all right, you can have like 2 chickens and like, it's a thing. So it'd be the same thing at your store.
Yeah.
So you would definitely get that person that would lie and be like, no, I have a family of 10 and they're just going to go sell the food or whatever. And these women are like, bitch, like they would just go in on this guy.
Exactly. Especially if he does it too much, just like, no, roast his ass and then
roast him. Yeah.
Does it again.
And that kind of keeps it contained. And also, once you have this person roasting people, everyone in the store is on their side.
Yeah.
And they're like, just take your 1 chicken and your can of beans. You fuck. Get out. Stop lying. Let's keep the line moving here.
Yeah.
I love that idea though. I hope you get super wealthy so you can open up your chain of free groceries.
There's already a girl who does it in the west side of LA. I forget her name, but I saw it on Broken Bread, that Roy Choi show.
Yeah.
But she does it, but it's very small scale. It's just like a farmer's market sort of thing, but it's still very helpful. But I'm like, what if we I'd even love to use her and not use her, but co do something with her and be like, let's make it bigger.
Yeah.
And, if Jay-Z's watching this, reach out to that woman, watch Broken Bread, and then
absolutely
reach out to her and start these grocery stores before I do. I shouldn't be the first one to do it.
Jay, just look at it as a write-off.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a write-off. You could probably use a nice $10-20 million write-off for your empire. I mean, you can't. I mean, the Nets, they're probably doing okay, but
sure, they're doing great. Yeah,
it's got to be. I mean, with salaries, it's got to be tough.
Although they don't have to pay for Kyrie, right? Or
I mean, there's that, but yeah,
it's a big chunk.
It's a big chunk. All right, cool. Well, this is great. Okay, so let's get into the calls. We got a couple. I don't know if you know, but like on this show, I don't ever listen to the calls. It's just Renee, so he picks them out for people to call. So I don't know what's coming. You don't know what's coming. So, ready to go?
Ready to go. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Roll the first call.
Hey, Matt and guest. I will try to be brief, but also specific, like you asked. So I recently got married. Hooray. And we got engaged during the pandemic. So, planning a wedding was really hard, and we just decided to do a little small kind of like courthouse adjacent type wedding. And then when it came to thinking about a reception, we agreed that we didn't really want to do a big reception because we would be paying for it and we'd rather save up for a house. So that leads me to my dilemma. I still would love to get together with like my closest friends. We're talking like 3 or 4 couples on each side and just like maybe have a little staycation thing, like rent an Airbnb and just hang out for the weekend just so I can kind of share a moment with my friends and her friends. The issue is a lot of my friends were on the East Coast, live kind of nearby where they could maybe drive or a short flight. A lot of her friends are scattered throughout the country and make it a little hard. And when I brought this up, she seems a little lackluster about the idea just because she feels like her friends might not be able to make it or do the travel plans, etc. So, she's kind of had the attitude of, you can do some research, but I'm still not super about the idea. I think we should just stay for a house or, I just don't, you could just do stuff with your friends, she says. Is that okay to plan it more of just my friends? I feel bad if it's just kind of my friends there, even though they're her friends too, by extension. But should I continue to kind of press to see if her friends could go, or should I just let it lie? All right. Thanks.
It's a good question.
I don't know what. Yeah, I'll let you take first crack.
Okay, I will say this is close to heart because me and my wife got married pre-pandemic, but we did it at the Brooklyn courthouse with just our family. So we also didn't do a reception. It was just a very small ceremony. But the thing that we both liked, I think that we both either did or are going to do is we did like afterwards, we had parties with our individual friends where we sort of celebrated then. It's not really a bachelor or bachelorette party. It's just like the equivalent of that, but you did it after you already got married. And you just like, my friends and I went to Vegas and just like partied in Vegas for like a weekend just to be like, hey, Will did get married. We all need an excuse to go to Vegas and party anyway. And then we did a family thing where together we traveled to a bunch of different cities, not even on necessarily because of the wedding. We just did it anyway.
Yeah.
And it just worked out that it was close enough to the wedding where it was kind of cool. But I think the travel thing, if you can swing that, if you can afford it with saving on the reception, it is fun too.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, it sucks to pass the buck like this, but it's really what you guys want to do.
Yeah.
It just comes, there's the thing is, there's no obligation to your family. And I'm sure people here like, oh, screw you, blah, blah, blah. They're old world. I'm not. I mean, I'm like, I got married in a courthouse. We had a couple friends there. We had my mother and father like wanted a rehearsal dinner just for kind of there. And so they were like, all right, we got that. We'll pay for that. I was like, cool. That's great. And it was nice to see a lot of my family and everyone having dinner and some drinks and stuff. But then we just had a party. All we really wanted the next night and that we put our money into, and we did sort of a honeymoon, but we got married in Portland and we went to the Willamette Valley, which is like an hour and a half drive. It's like wine country, and it was super low key. It wasn't like a big honeymoon blowout kind of thing. So it's just, you just have to go, what will make you the happiest? If it'll make you the happiest to see as many of your friends and family as possible, then great. But you gotta be honest with yourself. Is that true?
Yeah.
Will you be happier traveling? And It's really funny how it just becomes so clear how so many people project themselves onto events,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, no, you got to have everyone there, and it's like, no, you just want to party.
Yep.
You just want to go hang, and you just want an excuse to go get fucked up, or you want to, eat really good or whatever. Rather than go, I'm really happy for them, and look at pictures online and go, oh, they look like they're having so much fun, because that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really about these two people in the end. So this is all your time. You can't let yourself be swayed by what other people want in your family. That's how I feel. So I can't say what to choose, really, but yeah, I don't know. Hope that helps.
And it is truly what you want, because I wanted a steak in Vegas, and I got a steak in Vegas whenever I went with my boys. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. We I went to Temecula, which is like kind of like cheapo wine country, and got this insane Airbnb with a huge pool and like a game room with a bar in it, and it was like
That's awesome. Yeah.
It felt like, and I talk about it in my act, it felt like a house designed for straight men by gay men.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's like flames everywhere and shit, and there's like a painting of James Dean shooting pool with like Bogart. Like, what is this? What's going on? Indiana Jones pinball machine. I just saw like a designer being like, straight boys like this, right?
Right.
And this bar that like the windows open to the pool, so you could like bartend for your boys and stuff. It was crazy. It was so great. And then we go to wineries, just a couple during the day, and like pay the dude singing an acoustic guitar outside to like learn songs we liked.
That's
like
amazing.
Throwing 20s at him and shit. It was great. Like we were not at a hand, just having fun, and yeah. So, but it was pretty cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have this dream of like, I want to, go to, you can do Vegas much cheaper now. With big, there's different definitions. But if you're like, oh, we all live in Boston and I want to take everyone to Vegas, it's like, then you're like, all right, that's expensive. Like, tickets alone kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just sucks to pass the buck, but it really, you just have to center on exactly what you want the most, kind of thing. And that doesn't just mean, oh, this will make me viscerally happy in the moment. It's also like, I would like to see my uncle so-and-so or whatever, and that's another thing, invite the people you want to come.
Yeah.
The end. And that's hard, but it's got to be done. So, okay. Hope that helps. Let's roll the next call.
Hi, Matt. Longtime fan of the show. I was curious on some help with advice between a relationship. My wife and I just got married in September, but here in a few weeks I'm traveling to Japan for work for 6 months until May. How do you think I should keep in touch and maintain her anxieties and worries while I'm out there? Thanks again. Love you a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, dude. That's really tough. 6 months is a long time, but it's funny. First off, you have to make it clear that you know how she feels and that she's a little freaked out. Everybody's very scared when they're apart from each other. You wonder if the person's going to stray, if they're going to start feeling different. Make it clear that it's just not going to happen and how much she means to you. You tell her all that, and then and say you're going to FaceTime. Like I would say daily FaceTime to just see each other, like a time, you guys, this is our time. You find a time. The time difference is crazy, but you can find a time where like it'll be, say, early evening. I can't even think about the difference of which way it goes, but like let's say early evening for you and an early morning for her or whatever. And I think it's only like 7 hours, but where it's like I'm having a beer, you're having a coffee or whatever, and it's like this is our time. I don't schedule anything around this time, and neither do you. You have to have something like that. That's like seeing each other. I mean, it's that thing where I always thought we'd never want that FaceTime thing because, most, from growing up on the phone, like I don't want you to see what I look like right now. I look like shit, I'm in a robe, I'm hungover or whatever. But like with FaceTime, it's as an adult, it's been a godsend to have like my kid and my parents see her and stuff, and it's kind of how we connect with people emotionally now from long distances. So you have to set that up and say, here's like, make a huge plan to show her that this is something you're both going to be going through. This is not the start of an ending. This is not, I mean, it's tough. I worked with, this is a weird fucking name drop as for a reference, but I did a show, I guessed it on a show called Swedish Dicks. That was about two Scandinavian guys who were private detectives, and Peter Stormare was one of the guys. And Peter Stormare, as the devil in Constantine, and the guy who feeds Buscemi into a wood chipper at the end of Fargo, and he's always the bad guy. He's always a scary guy, and he's actually a peach. Like, he's the nicest guy you'd ever meet in your life. Every time he'd show up to set, he was wearing a Hello Kitty backpack that his daughter the dude is nice on a hoverboard. Like, he knows how to get around with it because his daughter has one. I'd be in the urinal and he would just roll up next to me and just be peeing and just be fucking hovering around me, like, while, like, he's a wacky, fun dude, and he's just like a goof. But I was talking about it. I was like, where did this show come from? And he was like, I created this show to stay in LA with my daughter. I get cast in these movies, and I got to go live in, Slovenia for 5 straight months to be on this action movie or something. And I can fly home sometimes, but it's expensive, and I just want to stay. I want to be booked. And so I created this show, and it mostly shows in Sweden. And it's him and this young dude who's kind of like the fucking, I don't know, the maybe the Kevin Hart of Sweden or something. Like, he's just enormous, and he's super young. And so it's like they have this kind of weird, like old guy, young guy dynamic. So the young guy was just like psyched to do an American project, even though it only shows here, on I think on, like, was it on Pop or something? Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was that thing where it wasn't, as you get older, you realize you work to live. Living to work is something when you're young and you're like, oh, I don't care. I just want to be on the road all the time. I always want to, do this or that. And hopefully call her like you're living your dream or something you at least like to do. But you're doing that for them. So you got to make that clear to her. Like, this is going to be really fucking hard for me too, but we're going to make it through, and our lives will be better afterward. So it's just that. And I remember that stuck with me, to this guy who was lived beyond the dream. He's been in everything. Like, how fun must that be to always play the bad guy? That just sounds like such a good time, and something that will never be my life experience whatsoever.
Mine either.
No. But, like, it's just rad that he was like, oh, I created the show to be with my kid. So it's like, you're going to Japan for a better life for you and your wife. So anyway, I talked way too much. Will, you go ahead.
No, that was perfect. And by the way, check out Swedish Dicks. It's great.
It's super weird. It's super weird.
Yeah. I love it. They tried to make an American version. I think Amy Poehler bought it or something. But
oh, really? Oh, funny.
I think so. But it didn't work. It didn't work out. But that show particularly was great. And check it out. Watch Matt on it. But yeah, I would say, 6 months is just a short period when you look at the fact that you guys are married forever, or at least you hope. That's the goal. So it's like these 6 months are going to be tough, but like Matt was saying, it's going to end up being a way better life because you're working towards a specific goal for your family now. And so it's like, it doesn't sound like there's kids yet. So this is a perfect time to be apart from each other. Right after we got married, my wife went to fucking Europe for a month or so. And it was like her career. So she did that, all those shows going across Europe, and killed it. And then she came back, and now her stand-up career is really blowing up since then. So it's like she put in that work, and it did suck to be apart for a month, but it was for a better reason. And that's what it is. When you go apart for a better reason, then it's like, how can that be wrong?
Yeah, and
and FaceTime is great. FaceTime is great. We FaceTime our parents.
FaceTime is essential. Yeah, and also, only thing I'll add is, show her Japan when you're there. because it is an amazing country, and go, I want to take you here. Let's make a date for this place. Don't go necessarily at all these like fancy restaurants, but be like, oh, look, we should go here. I hear this is great. So would you write this down? Write down this restaurant name, kind of thing like that. And also, absence does make the heart grow fonder. Like my wife and I have a pretty strong relationship because we are apart a pretty good amount. You need your own time. 6 months is too long. That's clear. But I think if anything, it'll help. It'll be so cool to see each other again. So that'll be something to look forward to. So, okay. So those are we had 2 calls. We also had, and I'm like, those were just the good. We had a couple calls, and a couple were kind of like, let's, this one's kind of, because we get a lot. Like, how do I get started? And it's like, we covered that.
Yeah.
But there was one write-in. I did this kind of like the night before, where I'm like, if you have anything you want to shout out or whatever, which was you're married to a comedian. How is that? So that's a pretty good one for you, I thought.
That's a great one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's I mean, it's great. It is, like, I see and understand a lot when a lot of comedians are like, I'll never date another comedian. But I mean, look at Jim and Pam, not to use a television show, but
sure,
they did fall in love at work. Mm-hmm. And there is something to that. It is like, how are you not gonna, if you really connect with somebody at work, it'd be weird if you didn't pursue it. Yeah. So like, it's just a part of the thing where I feel like I had a good base from my parents of just don't close anyone out. And then you are probably going to open yourself up to the person you love more. Because once you start closing up doors, like, well, I can't date a comedian, I can't date this, race or whatever, I can't date whatever. You're like, well, then I'm going to potentially close off my soulmate just because in my head, I want these parameters to make it make sense.
Totally.
And totally. So, that's a big portion of what, works, is that it's just like, oh no, I just happened to fall in love. Is she a comedian? Yes. It's like, it worked out that way, where it actually is a little bit easier because we both understand like the road.
Sure. So, you relate.
Yeah, we relate in those ways where it's like, and the distance thing, like you were saying, one of us is gone per weekend. It's like, well, then when we come back, it's like so exciting. It's like, oh, great. Oh, you're here again. Like she was on the road a lot when I was working very late nights on a certain show. And then when my show ended and we were like, she got back from Europe, I think around the same time, it was like, oh, this is great. Like, let's go. We literally made our child during those times. So it's like,
I mean,
it works out like that.
When I started out, I remember like Tom and Christina was like that. I saw that as kind of the anomaly. It was like, wow.
Oh yeah.
But I definitely looked at life wrong back then. I definitely was like, a lot of people was like, well, what if one person does better than the other one? But so what?
Right.
It's like it's on the person that isn't doing as well to deal with it. And if anything, if you're going to be together, it's just going to help you.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a unique situation where my ex-manager is who I'm married to.
Right.
And she's doing way better than I am. It's and it's like, it does cross my mind. It's like, oh man, I wish I was still working with her. Like, yeah, but at the cost of what?
Right.
Like we can't. And it's just, all I'm doing is rooting for her. And these clients she has that are doing way better than I am. And it's like, and look, and I'm doing fine. Everything's cool. But that is, we're all ambitious on a certain level. But it's just funny to me that there was a time in my life where I was just like, yeah, I don't know if I ever could, because just in case one person does better than the other. But that was just my insecurity talking.
Yeah.
That's really all it was. I remember, and I will not say who this was, but there's somebody I used to open for. And they said to me, and we really got along, and our acts are extremely different. And they said to me, it's really cool being on the road with you because you do well, and you're like, you're always excited and stuff, and we get along. Because this person isn't an effusive person. This isn't someone who pours their heart out a lot, but they were on the road with someone they were dating who was opening for them, who was just eating it every night.
Oh, yeah.
And that sucks. We've all been there. Still have bad sets sometimes, but like this person told me, like they would go back to the hotel later that night and that person would be like, oh, well, yeah, you were just with your public, huh? Like, oh, like.
That's no good. Yeah.
And you can't say to that person, yeah, but you took a shit on stage. I don't know what to. Is it my fault that and I was just like, and it's easier to avoid that by just not being with this kind of person. But it's just that thing where it's like, I wish that person would have been like, well, I'll get him next time, or I'll work on something, or be like, it's really depressing. I don't know if I should open for you anymore, or whatever, like for the sake of us, rather than attacking. And that's my only takeaway from that situation. It wasn't that they shouldn't have dated because they're comedians, or this person should have done better on stage. It's just this person shouldn't have lit into the person that's killing. It just doesn't make any. It's just like, oh, come on. That's.
I will say it definitely does help when you're both sort of on the same level too. I definitely do not think it would work in that situation where somebody's opening for the other person. Like now we do it for fun, and it's sure. Yeah, I'll open for you, but everyone knows,
that's a good point. I wouldn't. Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I don't think I would do that either, just to keep like a little bit of distance.
Yeah.
It certainly was obviously in that situation the one person being like, well, I should open for you. Like,
right.
Like trying to get some of those person's shine. And it's like, that'd be really hard to say no to. And you're like,
yeah,
maybe we shouldn't date. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe you should. Can you build your career first and then get it up to a place where it's not crazy that we're both headlining?
Can you do something?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect answer, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Will. This is a
blast.
Thank you. It was fun to spend an hour with you and hang out. Is there anything you want to plug now that you're before we go? That's
November 11th, Southside season 2, and
nice.
Keep watching it every week after that. It's coming on HBO Max. So yeah, watch HBO Max Southside season 2.
Yeah, I can't recommend it enough to people who are listening. It's so much fun, and and the writing's so great. I had John Roy over for dinner with his wife Angela on Monday, and he's from my group in Chicago, and he was like, I haven't seen it, and I was like, dude, and it was a thing. I was like, it was almost like that thing where, like guys our generation, where you find out a guy hasn't seen like John Wick or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
It's like, come on, we got it. Let's go to the movie theater right now.
Let's go right now. Yeah, I remember my friend Kevin in Chicago did that with Zoolander. He's like, you haven't seen it? Come with me. Come with, like immediately. Like we're going. I don't care what you're doing. We're going right now.
It is a perfect movie, Zoolander.
So if you make your friends see Southside, everybody. And dude, thanks so much, Will. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
Thanks so much for listening. That was incredible. If you have any need for advice or have any questions or just want to say hi, call and leave a message. 323-763-0228. Don't think about it, much less overthink it. Just call in, leave a message. It's anonymous. 323-763-0228. And thanks. This Might Help with Matt Braunger was created and hosted by me, Matt Braunger. Produced by Outer Circle Media. Executive producers Matt Kleinschmidt and Robert Kelly for the Laugh Button Podcasts.